event, really, is a pivotal launching pad and a catalyst for the promotion of the Man and the Biosphere program across the entire Caribbean. All around the Caribbean, policymakers are brainstorming about the next new ideas for development and growth of their own economies. But we believe that this program can contribute to this exercise and is an excellent initiative for sustainable growth, especially in the field of tourism and in small islands developing states like ours. At the same time, a powerful tool for climate change mitigation. This program as well, of course, have the potential to attract huge funding for development and related activities. It gives me great pleasure at this time to introduce the Honorable Nigel Carty, Minister responsible for UNESCO, and the Minister who have in fact overseen this particular program from its inception. Thank you very much.
As the Minister responsible for UNESCO affairs within the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, I am immensely proud to launch this commendable and highly relevant activity under the auspices of UNESCO. I wish to commend UNESCO and in particular the Division of Ecological and Earth Sciences, Island and Coastal Biosphere Reserves for its initiative in making this all happen, both the opportunity to inscribe the St. Mary's Man and the Biosphere site and in orchestrating this important conference. These accomplishments would not have been possible and would not have come about as they did without the timely assistance from the UNESCO Montevideo office in Uruguay. We are most grateful to all of the players in this regard. The MAB site here in St. Kitts is situated at St. Mary's Parish, 5 miles from our capital of Bastia, and it is a site that is hailed as an important area with respect to its biological diversity, comprising cloud forests, mangroves, and coral reefs. It is also to the joy of sea animal experts and local school children, a long-standing turtle mating and rehabilitation center, now benefiting from reinforced preservation as a result of the MAB designation. I wish you a very successful and productive conference here. I look forward to participating myself in the deliberations throughout the day. In particular, I trust that we will be of some assistance and value to these discussions, having been through the experience of putting forward our own MAB project and program. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we have confronted the challenges here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have had, of course, occasional setbacks, but now we have been able to see the success of our work and the work that many other persons within the region and beyond have been able to put forward in respect of this MAB project in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so let me now, in closing, again bid a very special welcome to all of you, those of you who are from the Federation, and even more so those of you who are traveling from abroad. Again, welcome to the proud Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you.
Let me start by just putting this in the context. St. Kitts and Nevis has been a long-standing contributor to debates on climate change at UNESCO. UNESCO is one of the key organizations that is mandated under the Barbados and the Mauritius strategy in implementing plans and measures to deal with the vulnerabilities of small island developing states. But St. Kitts and Nevis has joined, for instance, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission at UNESCO, which deals with, amongst other things, early warning systems of impending tsunamis and hurricanes. We hosted a ministerial conference here in this very room about 2 years ago on climate change adaptation of the Caribbean, which led to and kick-started a draft resolution at the UNESCO General Conference on the same theme, requesting the Director General to assign a priority and deploy funding to be able to follow through on the ministerial declaration which emerged from this meeting. And of course, now we very recently were the first English-speaking Caribbean state to actually sign up to or be accepted by the Man and Biosphere program. Now, I think the key common underlining point I want to make here is that St. Kitts and Nevis at UNESCO has been doing this not necessarily in its own self-interest, but also to embrace all of the English-speaking Caribbean states. And we've acted as a catalyst in Kitts and Nevis in kick-starting initiatives in the collective interest of the English-speaking Caribbean. Hence the reason for this conference. This is why we're here today. And we're going to take you through some of the steps that we need to take this forward. Next slide, please. Let me start with a definition. Now, no doubt Dr. Klosner-Gott will have his own definition. He's the expert in this issue. But looking at it purely as a diplomat and as a non-technically trained person in these areas, I would say that MAB reserves are sites for learning, preservation, innovation at a regional and very localized community level, built around sustainable development practices. I think there are a number of very important characteristics. So unlike many other international organization accredited activities associated with climate change, which give you a rubber stamp accreditation and nothing else really happens, MAB is very different. It's based on scientifically proven activities on the ground. Science, in fact, is a very core part of the whole operation. It's also a source of commendable preservation of fauna, flora, sea mammals. And an example, of course, is St. Kitts itself, with its turtle nesting area. It's an inspiration for local and regional communities to actually forge an identity for themselves, associated with protecting the increasingly fragile ecosystems. And it's also, by the way, a potential location for income-generating activities, whether it be ecotourism, new products, new services, all highly, highly relevant to SIDS. SIDS is important in the context of UNESCO, and MAB is an integral part of this. There are something like 38 small island developing states identified, recognized by the UN. 10 of these, by the way, are least developing countries. But they make up altogether 20% of the UNESCO membership. So we do have quite a strong voice when we speak together in unison in forging and requesting priorities to be set by UNESCO, one of them being MAB. This is something we need to build, I think, into our various sites as we go forward. MAB reserve sites, through their national commissions, of course, provide scientific and institutional frameworks to ensure that UNESCO inputs into the post-millennium development goals of 2015 are actually met, and in the medium-term programs as well. The conclusion I draw from this is that we need to bring science into the heart of these biosphere reserves, through learning laboratories at local level, application, perfection, and dissemination of results, in particular in areas like climate change. We do have, of course, scientific research institutes across the English-speaking Caribbean, but it tends to be at a very localized level, and the information is not disseminated as efficiently or proficiently as it should be. MAB will provide you with the basis, UNESCO's technical expertise, to set up very focused, highly focused, science-based institutions, research, which attracts international attention of the scientific community. We need to put ourselves on the map in this respect.
Man and the Biosphere project for St. Mary's took a very interesting turn, because when we were trying to zone the area for the biosphere, we realized that a lot of entities had an impact on the keys and Keys Beach, where we have our turtle nesting. When we looked at the different elements that impacted the beach where we were trying to protect the most, which is the turtle nesting and endangered species nesting area, we realized we will have to incorporate all of the waterways that entered onto the beach. And so that is why it's all the way from the Great Heats Pond in Canada to the Atlas Gut. Next slide, please. The St. Mary's Biosphere Reserve was declared in November of 2011, and it was the first of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean, which is a great accomplishment for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is not as large as many biosphere areas in the world, but it is 4,927 hectares in size, and it is located from about 4 miles out of Bastia, east of Bastia. Next slide, please. The functions of the St. Mary's Biosphere Reserve, we look at conservation, 3 main areas: conservation, development, and logistical support. In terms of the conservation, we're looking at the biodiversity and the ecosystems, as well as the species and genes and the historical aspects that fall within the biosphere. In the area of development, we're looking at the development in association with the protection of the environment. And in terms of the support, we are specifically looking at the local, the international network for research and monitoring. And on the UNESCO, of course, the biosphere have to meet certain specifications. This is a more detailed map of the biosphere. If you look at the terrestrial level, you would see there are a lot of historical aspects to it. First of all, we have our main water aquifer that is in the biosphere at the terrestrial level. We have our historical maroon settlements and dippy villages. If we could think back to slavery, and when I was looking at it and thinking about it, I'm thinking that our forefathers were very, very smart in deciding where they would go to hide when they ran away from the plantation into the maroon settlements, because they went close to the water source, and it's very difficult to get to the water source. Also, within the biosphere, the Great Heats Pond is a salt pond. It was of great value when we harvested salt, and there are many estates. For example, we have the Canada Estate, we have the Cunningham Estate, the Hermitage Estate, Brighton's, White's, Greenhill, and Bayford's. All of these fall within the biosphere area, and these are some of the historical aspects of the biosphere. Next slide. This is a land cover map that shows you the different areas of land within the biosphere. You have the transition zone that is within the sea, parts of the sea that can be used. We have the transition zone on the land as well. And then we have the turquoise zone, which is on the shore and at the terrestrial level. Next. This slide gives you a more detailed outlook on the area that is used as transition zone, the area marked in yellow, pale yellow. Then you have the green area, which is the core zone, and you see we have 2 core zones, one at the terrestrial or the mountain level, and one at the sea level. And then we have, in between them, you have the transition zones, that's the kind of orangey yellow, and then you have the buffer zone, which I will speak more about shortly. Next slide, please. The main functions of the core areas are to conserve biological diversity and enable low-impact research, education, and recreational activities. The St. Mary's Man and the Biosphere has a marine core zone of 202.37 hectares and a terrestrial core zone of 192.16 hectares. The marine core, you will find nesting habitat of both leatherback turtles the hawksbill, and the green turtles, all of them from critically endangered to endangered species. It is also the nesting place of several birds. There are 2 reef systems located north and south of the Carrion River, and these promote activities such as fishing, conch diving, and there's the harvesting of sea grapes and sea moss. The terrestrial core zone is located in the Central Forest Reserve National Park. In this area, you will find many endemic birds, species, plant species, and high historic and heritage value within those areas. In the marine core zone, these are some of the activities you would see going on. If you drive across from the road, you would not believe the kind of activities that is going on the beach. For example, a turtle could be coming in to lay its eggs. There are birds flying around on the beach, laying their eggs, and these nesting areas are not very protected. And so there is the Turtle Monitoring Network that was established early in 2000. And I see one of the persons from the Turtle Monitoring Network here. Dr. Stewart is not able to be here because she went overseas on business. But there's a Turtle Monitoring Network that have been in existence, and they do a very challenging job of trying to protect the eggs of both the endangered turtle species and the bird species on the Keys and Hermitage Beach. That was this picture, that is me over there in the black and white striped. It was the 13th of June last year when Dr. Kimberly called me and told me, Miss Wallace, there's a turtle coming in today, you have to come here right away. I had just gotten home from work, so I flew, not drove, I didn't drive, I flew to Keys Beach, and it was a long way across the beach, and I was huffing and puffing by the time I got there, but I got to see the turtle. And it was awesome to behold, and we really have to protect the turtles, not just because of themselves, but because of the fact that the turtles, not just tourists either, but the turtles eat the jellyfish, and the jellyfish feed on baby fishes. And so if we do not protect them, then we will in turn endanger ourselves, and so they are to be protected. This is the terrestrial core zone, and again, I have been from mountain to sea with Mr. Maynard. And we have been more or less documenting the different areas within the biosphere, collating information on what is important within the biosphere. And this is one of our trips that we went out to do an assessment of the Carrion waterway. We went way up, it was challenging, but we got there. And we had to go, we went to the same Maroon Congo town. It was historically located, and it was very difficult to get to. And you realize why the Maroons went there to hide, because you would not go there unless you really, really want to go there.